Welcome to Emergency Management Associates. My name's Ron Tyler. We will start this program off in just about a minute as soon as I ascertain whether YouTube has us on the air or not. So far I don't see it. Just as soon as I see it, we'll be continuing this program. This is typical of what I see here on YouTube. This is interesting. How I can go several minutes after I'm already live on the air, supposedly live on the air, and YouTube still does not have me live, and I just found out that now I am live. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates tonight, everyone. My name is Ron Tyler. I am the president and founder of Emergency Management Associates. Demon Catman is the first one here in the chat. Juanito. Demon Catman's from the east of England. Juanito is from El Centro, California. Welcome, guys. We appreciate it. Nicole Motor is here. Hi, Ron. Thank you, Nicole. We appreciate you being here. S. Snort is here. Thank you so much, Susan. God bless you for that. Our dear Sleeping Volcano, one of also of our mods, are here as well. Thank you so much for that. Cassandra Goss is here. We appreciate that very much as well. We appreciate all of you who are joining us here on this program tonight. We have a lot of information for you tonight. We appreciate everyone who's going to be joining us here on the Emergency Management Associates program. We're coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina, in our studio office here in Morganton, North Carolina. We appreciate each and every one of you for being here. Fancy Oak, Juanito, Nicole, Demon Catman, Golden Age of Love and with Christine is here from California. Thank you so much for being here. God bless you for that. Folks, I think we're going to start off here. Like I said, we're coming to you from North Carolina. I moved here just over 3 years ago. There was a reason. I had things going on and I needed to get away from where I was at. My dear wife showed up here 2 years ago. I love her very much. I appreciate her also being here. She supports me, loves me, and gives me the encouragement to help each one of you. And I appreciate that so much. Fancy Oak is here. I appreciate that. Ring of Lights Craft is here again. Thank you so much for being here. Anyway, folks, I want to talk to you somewhat about earthquakes tonight. Usually on Monday nights we talk about the Cascadia earthquakes. I'm going to forego some of that tonight because I want to talk to you about earthquakes down in the South Pacific. Yesterday we had an earthquake. Let me get this back here where it should be. So far my map is misbehaving here. Hey, I got it back. That's great. I got my map back. Anyway, guys, I want to show you what's going on here. Over here, this is the Mariana Trench right here, where you see my cursor. This is a 5.0 earthquake in the northern Mariana Islands area, 149 kilometers southeast of Saipan, northern Mariana Islands. This is an earthquake trench. This is in one of the deepest trenches in the Pacific Ocean. This earthquake is 10 kilometers deep inside the trench, 6.2 miles deep, still a shallow quake. Just north of there, this earthquake is a 4.6 moderate earthquake here in the Volcano Islands, south of Japan. As you can see, it is south of Japan here. Okay? A couple other earthquakes I want to talk about. This is Sablon, Philippines. This is south of Luzon, Philippines. This is also a 4.7 earthquake, 6 kilometers or 6 miles deep, 10 kilometers deep. This earthquake here, this is a 4.8 on the upper side of the moderate scale. Again, USGS calls this a light quake. I'm going to say right now, and I said this before and I'll always say this again, the 4.0 to 4.9 earthquakes are not light earthquakes. They are moderate earthquakes. They cause moderate damage. For whatever reason, USGS does not want to call an earthquake an earthquake. They want to downgrade it. They want people to think that nothing is going on. Well, in all reality, a lot is going on. That earthquake I just showed you is an upper 4.8, moderate earthquake. It can do moderate damage. This earthquake, however, I want to show you where it is. And I don't know why my map is not responding the way it should. I have no clue why. It's playing games with me, I guess. It's really playing games now. Figures. It figures. Okay. I have a touch screen here, okay? Go figure. Again, this is Sablan, Philippines, a 4.7 earthquake, 10 kilometers, 6.2 miles deep. This earthquake south of there, this is right beside another deep trench, an earthquake fault here in the Pacific Ocean. Hingutungan, Philippines, a 4.8 earthquake here. Again, it's right along this trench here. A great big huge earthquake fault that comes out of Indonesia. Again, why are we talking about it? Because between Indonesia, Australia, the Philippines, Taiwan, and Japan, and down over into New Zealand, and even over into Tonga here. Wait till the map resolves here. Right here. Notice they are not reporting any earthquakes here in Tonga. They're not reporting any earthquakes in Fiji. There are plenty of them. They're not reporting any earthquakes here in Vanuatu. They're not reporting any earthquakes in the Solomon Islands. And of course, they're not reporting any earthquakes here in New Zealand. None. That's a fallacy. There are plenty of earthquakes here in New Zealand. We've had earthquakes here in Tonga, here in Fiji, that they're not reporting. I want to go over here to the southern part of the Indonesia here. Okay? This is a 4.8 upper side moderate earthquake. Mamir, Indonesia. Okay? Mamir, Indonesia. This is east of Java, Indonesia. There are plenty of earthquakes here in Indonesia. In fact, there are 28 earthquakes here in Indonesia that they're not telling us about. 28 earthquakes that they're not telling us about. Why is this important? This whole area here, from over here in Myanmar, Cambodia, Thailand, Vietnam area here, all the way down here through and around Australia to encompass New Zealand here, Samoa, Tonga area here, all the way up here into the Philippines, up here into Taiwan, and even as far north as Japan here. 7 different tectonic plates are in play here. 7 different tectonic plates. What's going on? As I have explained this before, there are 7 different tectonic plates here. One is subducting underneath the other. Each one of the tectonic plates is subducting here. There was a lady who was watching our program from Indonesia that sent me a message about 2 or 3 years ago. She asked me, why were they getting so many earthquakes in Indonesia? The simple answer is this. Each one of these tectonic plates is subducting under the other, going underneath the other, subducting deep inside the earth. Deep inside the earth. That is what is causing all these earthquakes here. We have had earthquakes here in Australia that USGS has not even told us about. Usually there are earthquakes here in southern Australia. Lately we've had some earthquakes up here in Queensland, Australia, that they have not told us about. And when I've come on the air, I've told you about them. Again, over here in New Zealand, they're still not reporting any earthquakes here in New Zealand, although there are about 23 earthquakes now here in New Zealand today. They're not reporting any of those. There are also 2 earthquakes south of New Zealand. These are on the Antarctic ridge here. These are on the Antarctic ridge. Now, I want to tell you this. This, folks, is a 5.1 large earthquake. 5.0 to 5.9 are considered to be large earthquakes. This is one of the largest earthquakes today, a 5.1 large earthquake. Now, with that said, we've also had an aftershock. Let me go back to this 5.1 earthquake really quick. I want to tell you when this happened. This earthquake happened at approximately 10:38 p.m. Eastern Time last night. A 5.1 earthquake down here in what they call the Bellany Islands. In the Bellany Islands, guys. This is down on the Antarctic ridge. You notice down here at the bottom here, the Antarctic is here. Well, the Antarctic ridge is where these earthquakes are. The Antarctic ridge is an earthquake fault. An earthquake fault, a tectonic plate involving the Antarctic area here. These earthquakes are here on this plate. This is a large 5.1 earthquake. Well, guess what? That happened at 10:38 last night. Well, this quake here, a 4.6 moderate quake today. This happened at 7:54 a.m. today. Almost 9 hours later. 9 hours after the large 5.1 earthquake hit here on the Antarctic ridge, the moderate earthquake 4.6 hit here was an aftershock. An aftershock of that quake. Okay? Again, over here in Papua New Guinea, this also was a 5.0 earthquake. A large 5.0 earthquake. Well, folks, this earthquake here, I'm going to zoom in here to show you where it happened. I want you to see where it happened. Right here, this is the 5.1. This happened over here in the Pacific Ocean. It happened 198 kilometers southeast of Kokopo, Papua New Guinea. Okay? It was not near any land. These earthquakes that are out in the ocean, just like the one over in the Antarctic ridge, the shock waves from the earthquake are absorbed by the Pacific Ocean waters. The shock waves from the earthquake are absorbed by the Pacific Ocean waters. That's what happened here. Now, let's go over here to the west. This is a 4.5, also in Papua New Guinea. This is 192 kilometers deep. This is a moderately deep earthquake. A moderately deep earthquake. With that said, it's still fairly shallow. Now, what do we say about that? This earthquake is not going to be susceptible to anything. It's not a deep earthquake. Deep earthquakes propagate larger, shallower quakes. This is not the case here. This is still too shallow an earthquake for anything else to happen. This 5.1 over here, okay? This is 41.6 kilometers deep. Still a very shallow earthquake. Just like this very shallow earthquake here in Papua New Guinea. Let's go down here and let's look at the depth of these earthquakes on the Antarctic ridge here. This 5.1 here on the Antarctic ridge is only 10 kilometers deep. A very shallow earthquake, 6.2 miles deep, 10 kilometers deep. This moderate aftershock also on the Antarctic ridge. This is 10 kilometers deep as well. Now, we do not have any very strong earthquakes. We don't even have any 5.5 to 5.9 earthquakes, which are very large earthquakes. 5.5 to 5.9 are considered to be very large earthquakes. Okay? Now, over here in South America, this is very interesting. Okay? I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit. USGS says there's only 2 earthquakes here in South America. They don't know what they're talking about. Well, guess what? They don't know what they're talking about here on the map because they're not showing all the earthquakes here. This is a 4.1 that came in at 4:10 this morning. I got notified when this earthquake happened. It's only a very minor, moderate earthquake. It's on the lower scale of the moderate quakes. 4.0 to 4.4 earthquakes are on the minor scale. Okay? It's still a moderate quake. It still does moderate damage, especially in this area. Folks, this is in the Andes Mountains here. Nobody probably even felt this earthquake because very few people live here in the Andes Mountains. Very few people. This is in the tops of the mountain like you can see. Okay? Very few people even felt it except if they were up there hiking or for whatever reason being up here in this tops of the mountains here. This is a very high area. Now look where this earthquake is. Okay? Look where it's at. This is at a volcano. This is right in a crater here in the Andes Mountains. This happens quite frequently. As we've told you before, all of the volcanoes are recharging. All of the volcanoes are recharging, meaning magma is returning to the volcanoes. We've talked about this before. Yes, there are volcanoes here in the Andes Mountains, all over the Andes Mountains here. Okay? In the past, we've shown you all the earthquakes here, although tonight I'm not going to show you all the earthquakes all over the Andes Mountains, either in Chile or Argentina. There are no earthquakes really that have done any significant damage here in South America. But there have been a lot of earthquakes. 3.0 to 4.5 earthquakes all over the Andes Mountains. Either in, why did it do that? These earthquakes either happened in Chile and or Argentina. In one case right here. Okay? This one right here. They say this is a 4.5. Pedro de Atacama, Chile. Folks, this is on the border. On the border of Brazil. Actually, this is on the border of Argentina and Chile. It's in the Andes Mountains. Pedro de Atacama, Chile. A 4.5 earthquake here. 126 kilometers deep. Still a very shallow earthquake. We've had deep earthquakes here before. 562 kilometers deep, 672 kilometers deep, and even 750 kilometers deep. Those are deep earthquakes. These are very shallow earthquakes. Now, while I've shown you 2 earthquakes here, there are 32 earthquakes here in South America. All throughout this area here in northern Chile and Argentina, we've had 3.2 to 4.5, 4.6 earthquakes throughout this entire area. Again, they're not showing us all the earthquakes. Okay? We've even had a couple smaller earthquakes here in Peru. Over here in Ecuador, we've had several earthquakes here in Ecuador. We've had some earthquakes up here in Colombia. They're not talking about them. They're not talking about them because they don't want us to know what's going on. Here in Central America, we have about 17 earthquakes here in South America. Most originate here in Costa Rica at the Panama-Costa Rica border. Yes, we have earthquakes here in Nicaragua and El Salvador. We have several earthquakes here in Guatemala here along the coastline of the Cocos Plate here. This is the Cocos Plate here, right here. Here in southern Mexico, we've had about 42 earthquakes here in southern Mexico. And again, look here. They're not showing even one earthquake here. This is very typical what we see here in southern Mexico. They will not tell us about anything here in Central America or South America. The only way they show them are if they're near a 4.5 moderate earthquake status here, and there are some, they're still not showing them. Heaven forbid. All these earthquakes are moving north. All these earthquakes along the coast of Central and South America are moving north. We've seen it happen. Down here in the Gulf of California here, we've had 3.5 and 4.5 earthquakes here. Are they showing them? No, they're not. Baja California, have we had earthquakes here? Yes, we have. Again, they're not showing them. I go here to Southern California. Southern California is still having earthquakes. We keep talking about them. Earthquakes all over Southern California. These red earthquakes just happened. This is a 0.8 microquake over in Borrego Springs. The Anza Borrego Desert State Park is right here. The Anza Borrego Desert State Park is here. This is the San Jacinto Fault. This whole area here is the San Jacinto Fault, reaching down here into Imperial County, California. The San Jacinto Fault comes up here and meets up with the San Andreas Fault. This is one of the reasons we keep having earthquakes here. The San Andreas Fault. Again, the USGS is not showing us all the earthquakes here in the Southern California area along the San Andreas Fault either. They don't want us to know about it. They do not want us to know about it. Why? Because these earthquakes are minor tremors, microquakes, and small earthquakes. We are expecting a major earthquake here in Southern California. We are expecting a major earthquake here in Southern California along the San Andreas Fault here. It can happen anywhere between this earthquake here. This earthquake here is on the San Jacinto Fault right next to the San Andreas. This is a 0.9 microquake, 1.0 tremor. Whenever there's anything 0.9, I upgrade it to a 1 point above it because USGS downgrades everything. Again, they don't want to be honest with us to tell us about exactly what's going on here. There are earthquakes here that they're not telling us about because they know for a fact what's going to happen. And they don't want to worry anybody. But when those earthquakes happen, they're going to kill people. Those earthquakes are going to injure and kill people. There will be injuries and fatalities as a result of that quake that they don't want to tell anybody about. There are very few people that even know about this quake that's going to happen. But we have evidence that it's not just evidence that it's going to happen, but we have plenty of earthquakes to show that the seismicity, the number of earthquakes, and the strength of these earthquakes are increasing throughout this whole area here. Throughout this whole area. Even down here in the Imperial County. Today they're showing us one earthquake right here. They're showing us one earthquake here. This is Holtville, California. Holtville, California. There just happens to be a seismograph here in Holtville, California. This is at least a 1.4 tremor here. They're only showing one quake here. There are probably over 350 earthquakes here today. I can guarantee it. Right here on the southeast side of the Salton Sea here. Typically, there are anywhere from 100 to 150 earthquakes here every day. Calipatria, California. The seismograph records these quakes onto what they call a seismograph, a graph showing the earthquakes and showing the intensity of the earthquakes. Over here, Westmoreland, California, there happens to be a seismograph here, recording the earthquakes here. There are about 50 earthquakes here every day in Westmoreland area. We come down over here. This is Imperial, the town of Imperial, California, here in the Imperial Valley. Typically, there are 25 to 50 earthquakes here in the Imperial too, every day. Further south, right here, this is El Centro, California. El Centro, California has been having dozens of 3.0 to 4.0 earthquakes here every day. Dozens. And other tremors as well. There are probably over 100 seismic events here in El Centro every day. Up here on the central east side of the Salton Sea. This is Bombay Beach, California. Here in Bombay Beach, they've been having good-sized earthquakes. The earthquakes here are lasting 2, 3, and 4 minutes apiece. Each and every earthquake. These earthquakes are a size of 3.0 to 4.5 earthquakes every day. 3.0 3.9 are considered to be small earthquakes. 4.0 to 4.9 are moderate earthquakes with moderate shaking and moderate damage. We are having 10 to 15 earthquakes here of small to moderate size every day. I've shown you all seismograms here from Bombay Beach when I've shown them. Every day those earthquakes happen. So the USGS is not showing us everything going on here. There are several hundred earthquakes here in the Imperial Valley that they're not showing us. Now they are saying that there are 256, I'm sorry, that's not correct. There are 256 earthquakes all around the world today. But again, they're not showing at least 300 to 500 earthquakes right here in the Imperial Valley. They're not showing them. Why not? They're not showing all the earthquakes up and down the entire Pacific coastline of California. Again, they only want to show what they want to show and nothing else. Heaven forbid they be honest with any of us. They just won't do it. They don't want to do it. Now, I'm dragging this map down to the north so you can see some of these earthquakes that have happened up here near San Francisco. Right here. This is a 2.0 earthquake near Alum Rock, California, just south of the Bay Area. South of that, just east of Monterey Bay here that you see. This is a 1.2 in Gilroy, California. We've been having minor tremors here in Gilroy, California for quite some time now. Every day for months and months. The last time we had a large earthquake here in Gilroy, California was back in the 70s. I believe we're going to have another earthquake here in Gilroy very soon. Look where Gilroy, California is. Right on the side of the San Andreas Fault. On the coastal side of the San Andreas Fault, this is Aromas, California. A 1.9, 2.0 earthquake here. 2.0 minor earthquake. Now, while this is the San Andreas Fault, right here we have another fault. Okay? There are 3 faults in this region. 3 faults in this region. Now, why do you think we're concerned here? Why do you think we're concerned here? This earthquake here, this is the Hayward Fault. The Hayward Fault. This earthquake on the Hayward Fault in Allen, California, a 2.0 minor quake. The problem with that is they are still not showing us all the quakes. Right here, this is the 3rd earthquake fault. This is the Calaveras Fault. So we have 1, 2, 3 major earthquake faults here in Northern California. They're still not showing us all the earthquakes. Folks, something's going to happen here as well. And it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty at all. They're still not showing us all the earthquakes here. Over here, off to the east side of San Francisco Bay. East side of San Francisco Bay. Oakland, California. Oakland, California. This is a 1.4 tremor on the Hayward Fault. On the Hayward Fault. Now, what happened in 1979? Actually, not 1979, I mean 1989. What happened right here in the San Francisco Bay Area around Oakland and San Francisco County, even stretching down here south to San Jose? A major earthquake happened. It came out as a 6.9 earthquake, and it was called the World Series earthquake. The World Series earthquake was about to start in October 1989. What happened? A major earthquake causing fires. It caused the Oakland Bay Bridge to fall down into San Francisco Bay, with cars and trucks on the bridge going into the water. The Oakland Bay Bridge was a double-decker bridge. The top part of the bridge fell onto the lower part, further causing problems, crushing the cars and people beneath it. Many hundred people died. There were fires. There were gas pipelines broken. Water pipelines broken, and the fire department was not able to put out fires on a regular basis. They couldn't get enough water. We are still expecting another major earthquake here in San Francisco. It's going to happen, regardless whether USGS wants to admit it or not. There's evidence proving it. There's evidence proving that. 100 miles north of San Francisco Bay, we have another issue. Right here. We have about 30 earthquakes right here. This is considered to be the geysers thermal area. There's a geothermal facility here. Just north of the geysers, there is a lake here. Well, guess what? That lake is a volcano. This is the Clear Lake volcano. There are 30 plus earthquakes right here in the geysers area. Why? Because, folks, men have drilled into this volcano. They have drilled into this volcano to obtain steam from the volcano to power turbines in this area to generate electricity for 4 major energy conglomerates here in Southern California and 1 energy conglomerate being in Utah. They're generating electricity by pulling steam from that volcano. Every one of those drill points, just like we have drill points in Texas and Oklahoma, Nebraska and Kansas, every time we have drill points, guys, the seismic energy seeks out those man-made earthquake faults. Each one of those drill points are earthquake faults. And those earthquake faults have earthquakes. The seismic energy finds those man-made earthquake faults and it shakes the earth. It fractures the rock. It fractures the rock. This is a 0.8 microquake here in the geysers area. We get up to 2.0s here. This is a 1.1 tremor here. This is a 1.1 tremor here. But we get upwards of 2.0 to 3.5 earthquakes here all the time, as a result of men drilling into the upper magma chambers of this volcano to obtain steam to power turbines here in the geysers facility. That's what they're doing. That is exactly what they're doing. Now I'm going to try to zoom in here. I want to show you one of the turbine facilities, and guess what? This time I found it. There are over 80 turbines here in the mountains of the Sonoma County. These are mountains in Sonoma County, wine country, San Francisco area, Sonoma, California. 80 turbines. This turbine facility here has 10 turbines. There are 80 turbines throughout the mountainous areas of Sonoma County, California. Right here. Right here. Each and every road here, and you can kind of see them from even this angle here from the satellite. There are plastic pipes here. Plastic pipes coming from these drill points. There's a drill point system here. And there's drill points all over the mountains here. These plastic pipes carry the steam down here to the turbines, powering the turbines to generate electricity here in the geysers facility. 80 different turbines. Sometimes, yes, there have been fires as a result of these turbines in this area, because the Pacific Gas and Electric, which is the primary electric company that is responsible for the geysers facility, they have not kept up on the maintenance of their facility, and because of that, their facilities cause wildfires here in California. I just want to bring that up as well. Okay? Now, yes, we do have earthquakes here, all up and down the San Andreas Fault. Yes, folks, the San Andreas Fault here runs all the way up here to the north. It runs up along the coastline of California here. Right here. This is the San Andreas Fault here. The San Andreas Fault originates here in Northern California, just off the coast. This is what they call the triple junction. The San Andreas Fault, the Cascadia subduction zone, and the Gorda escarpment here. These are 3 faults. That's why they call it the triple junction. Again, they're not showing us all the quakes and tremors that are happening here. There is an earthquake down here to the south. This is in Laytonville, California. This is a 1.4 tremor here. This is not the only 1.4 tremor that's been here. They're still not reporting all the quakes here as well. We have at least 1 to 2 tremors here every day in Laytonville, California. Every day. I want to show you one earthquake here to the east. This is a 2.5 minor quake. A 2.5 minor quake here. And it's very interesting. It's very interesting. There is a lake here. This lake is called Lake Almanor. Lake Almanor, okay? Just about 2 years ago, we had 3 5.0 to 5.3 earthquakes here in the central to southern part of Lake Almanor. Well, guess what? Guess what? They're all part of the volcanic fault area going through this entire area. Okay? All part of this whole area. Lake Almanor. Fortunately, there was a very minor damage here to property. Nobody was killed when these 3 5.0 to 5.3 earthquakes struck here a couple years ago. There was damage, but fortunately it was very minor. The people that live here in Lake Almanor here are very lucky. There are probably 5,000 people that live in this area. 5,000 people live in this area. This is just one area here. There are people that live right here. There are people that live here on the peninsula here. There are people that live up here. There are people that live down here as well. Probably 5,000 people live in this area. It's a beautiful lake. There are slips here where people have boats in. Okay? This is a pretty affluent area. Besides it being a beautiful lake, it has fish in it. Okay? But all the earthquakes here were as a result of volcanic action to the north and west. Now, right here, see this? This is another fault area. What is this? Can you guess what this is? It's a volcano. It's a volcano. And this volcano is getting ready to erupt again. It last erupted in 1917, and it's getting ready to erupt again. There's a ton of evidence to support it. Earthquakes are hitting here at this volcano every day. 20 to 35 earthquakes here every day. We've documented it. We've documented it. Now I'm going to back out just a little bit. Again, I want to go north here. Over here, to the north. Guess what? See this supposed explosion here? Anytime we see a diamond here, USGS tries to call it an explosion. They call this an explosion in Drain, Oregon. Drain, D-R-A-I-N, Oregon. They call this a 1.6 explosion. Again, I want to define what this really is. Okay? Sometimes they call an explosion a quarry blast. Well, guess what? There are no quarries near here. This is in a forested area. Unless they're trying to put explosives here in the ground to take out trees, this is not an explosion. It's also not a burning tree. A spontaneous combustus carnivorous. This did not caused by a tree. It was not spontaneous combustus anything. This was not a fire. It was not an explosion. This was a 1.6 tremor here. A 1.6 tremor here in Drain, Oregon. Southwest of Drain, Oregon. Okay? It was not an explosion at all. It was a tremor. It was a tremor. There are earthquakes here all over this area. We also have volcanoes all over Oregon. Literally all over Oregon. One of the reasons we have tremors here in Oregon is because of magma headed towards the volcanoes. Magma headed towards the volcanoes. We have a volcano right here. We have many other volcanoes all over Oregon. But heaven forbid the USGS would ever be honest with us and tell us what's going on. They hide earthquakes. They hide earthquakes every day. Okay, now I want to zoom in here. This supposedly is an earthquake. It's at a volcano. Mount Hood. Government Camp Mount Hood. They're calling it government camp. Folks, this is on the southern side or southern flank of Mount Hood, a volcano. Government camp is down here to the south of that. Down here on the bottom of the volcano. This is not government camp at all. This is just on the upper side of the volcano. But what they're not telling you is this is a quarter of a mile deep inside the volcano. This is not government camp at all. This is not government camp at all. It's up inside the volcano, a quarter of a mile deep inside Mount Hood. Okay? There are other earthquakes here at Mount Hood that they're not telling us about either. There are about 50 earthquakes every day here at Mount Hood. Did they tell us about it? No. Heaven forbid. Heaven forbid. I could tell you more stories about Mount Hood, but that might scare you. Okay? Right here. This is another volcano. Today they're not telling us anything about this volcano. There are anywhere from 50 to 150 earthquakes here at Mount St. Helens. Every day. Every day. Mount St. Helens is getting ready to erupt. Mount St. Helens is getting ready to erupt. Are they showing us any earthquakes? No, they're not. Usually they show us some microquakes, some 0 point whatever microquakes. Today they're not showing squat. Nothing here at Mount St. Helens. It's interesting because usually they show us that, but they're not. Over here to the east, this is Mount Adams. Even on the seismograms, they're making sure that we don't see what's going on here at Mount Adams. Mount Adams is another volcano. Yes, there is seismic activity, but they never show it here on the map, nor do they like us to go over to the seismograms. The seismograms show us a lot of activity, but they've been doctoring the seismograms for about 3 years since I started broadcasting the activity. Heaven forbid they tell us the truth. Mount Rainier. They're showing us 2 earthquakes south of Mount Rainier. Fascinating because there are probably 70 earthquakes here every day here at Mount Rainier. This is a 0.4 microquake. This is a 1.0 tremor south of Mount Rainier. They're saying this is an explosion on the west side of Mount Rainier. These earthquakes surrounding Mount Rainier here are in the foothills of Mount Rainier. They're only showing us 2 of them here. But they're saying this is an explosion. Really. A 1.3 explosion on the southern or the west side of Mount Rainier in the foothills. In the foothills. Now I'm going to zoom into this because I want to show you exactly what's going on. Okay? Look at this. Isn't this fine and dandy? Again, there are no quarries here. There are no quarries here. This is a mountainous region, as you can see here. There are trees here. This is not an explosion. This is also a 1.3 tremor here. This is also a quarter of a mile deep. Not an explosion at all. There's another one just north of that. Right up here. Again, this is Washington State. Another explosion here. Right here. This is a 0.6 explosion. A 0.6 explosion. Heidi Petrick just gave us a $10 super chat. Heidi, thank you so much for that. We really, really appreciate that so much. I'm giving you a like. I encourage all of you to acknowledge Heidi Petrick for that super chat. We appreciate all of you who support our channel. I'm also giving Heidi a EMA sticker on her super. We definitely love and appreciate Heidi for the contributions she makes to our program. The contributions that you guys make either to the super chat or to our PayPal, or when you send it through the U.S. mail to our post office box, is greatly appreciated and helps fund us to keep this program on the air. I started this program 5.5 years ago. 5.5 years ago. Did I know that it was going to cost money to fund this program? No, I did not. And YouTube is not helping us. YouTube is not helping us. They demonetized this channel quite a long time ago. Again, I want to show you what's going on here, because it's hard for anybody to believe what's happening here. They don't want to admit anything here. Heaven forbid. Heaven forbid they would admit to anything going on at all. But there's plenty going on. There's actually plenty going on here. Again, this is not an explosion. It's in a hilly area here near Enumclaw, Washington. This is a 0.6 microquake. A 0.6 microquake here. But heaven forbid they're honest with us about it. Heaven forbid. They don't want us to know what's happening here. Not at all. Okay? They lie about it, calling them explosions, but they're not. Again, Washington and Oregon have their share of volcanoes. Washington and Oregon have their share of volcanoes. What's going on here? We have magma coming from the Pacific Ocean area, underneath the ocean. There are magma tunnels. These magma tunnels continue into the land area here in the crust. These magma tunnels are headed for volcanoes. That is why we get these tremors here. A lot of them. A lot of them. Now, something else you need to know. Right here. This is called the Puget Sound area. The Puget Sound. We get a lot of tremors here in the Puget Sound area as well. Why? Why do you think we get a lot of earthquakes here? Because we are expecting a 9.0, 10.0 earthquake to happen here in the Cascadia subduction zone region. Okay? In the region. These earthquakes and tremors here are related to volcanic activity. I promise you that. However, we keep having earthquakes here. This is the result of the Cascadia subduction zone. The Cascadia subduction zone. This is an earthquake fault right here. Okay? This is the Devil's Mountain Fault Zone. Devil's Mountain Fault Zone. This is McMurray, Washington. Near Lake Murray, Washington. This happens to be a 1.0 tremor here. 1.0 tremor. Along the fault zone. This is a fault zone right here. There's another, there's another fault zone running off of it down here into the Puget Sound area. What is this? This body of water right here. Folks, this is the Strait of Juan de Fuca. The Strait of Juan de Fuca coming off the Pacific Ocean here. Coming off the Pacific Ocean. Just off the coast here. Let me zoom out here a little bit. My map is not cooperating very well here. The Pacific Ocean's out here. This is the Cascadia subduction zone. The Cascadia subduction zone runs up here to Queen Charlotte Island here. The Cascadia subduction zone. It runs all the way down to where I showed you down in Northern California. The Cascadia subduction zone, an earthquake fault running along the coast of British Columbia, Canada, Washington, Oregon, and down into Northern California. This fault here, this is a straight, this is the Juan de Fuca fault. This zigzag fault here, this is the Juan de Fuca fault. This fault also runs south, almost parallel to the Cascadia subduction zone. Right here in this area between the Juan de Fuca and the Cascadia subduction zone here is where we're going to get the 9.0, 10.0 earthquake. Right here in this area. And of course, they don't want us to see all the earthquakes that are here. If I was to show you the earthquake map of Canada, you'd see hundreds of earthquakes here along the coastline of Vancouver Island and points north up to Queen Charlotte Island. Every day. Every day. Look at that. Again, the Cascadia subduction zone running from Queen Charlotte Island down south here into Northern California. The Juan de Fuca fault. This zigzag fault line running all the way down here. This fault line here is called the Blanco fracture zone, hooking up with the Juan de Fuca fault here. The Blanco fracture zone runs from the northwest here to the southeast here and hooks up with the Gorda Ridge here. The Gorda Ridge right here. The Gorda Ridge runs south to the Gorda Escarpment here, connecting with the San Andreas and the Cascadia subduction zone. That's why when this earthquake fault goes off here with the Cascadia megathrust earthquake, it's going to resound all the way down to northern Mexico. It's going to trigger the San Andreas fault right here. It's going to trigger the San Andreas fault right here. Okay? Now, Surgery's reporting here in the chat that we have a 4.2 earthquake in the Gulf of Alaska. I'm going to zoom out here. I want to show you this earthquake, this quake right here. Okay? It's a 4.2 earthquake. USGS is calling this a 4.2 moderate quake, 259 kilometers southeast of Chignac, Alaska. Chignac, Alaska. We have earthquakes here every day. Every day. Most of the time, USGS doesn't even show us these earthquakes. Look at all these earthquakes here in Alaska today. There's probably a handful more. I want to show you an earthquake here to the north of Alaska. Why? Because this is up in the Arctic Circle. 2.4 earthquake here in Arctic Village, Alaska. 2.4 earthquake here in Arctic Village, Alaska, along the Arctic Circle here. Down here in the Aleutian Islands, we have some minor earthquakes and tremors down here. This is typical. But again, USGS is not showing us everything going on here. Heaven forbid we have the truth. Now, just so you know, I'm going to pull over here into Europe. They're hardly showing anything here. They're not showing anything here in Europe or Scandinavia. Nothing. There's about 500 earthquakes here in Europe. 500 earthquakes here in Europe every day. And they're still not telling us about all the quakes. They're showing one earthquake here in, I want to show you this. They're showing one earthquake here in Tajikistan on the border of China. This is again a 4.6 moderate earthquake here. They're showing us one earthquake here. This is near Yemen. Near Yemen. Guess what? A 4.6 earthquake here. Not surprising. They're also not showing us other earthquakes here in the Indian Ocean. Heaven forbid. We showed you this earthquake earlier. A 5.3 here in the Bonin Islands, south of Japan. 5.3 earthquake south of Japan. Up here north of Japan. This is the Kuril Island region here. The Kuril Islands belong to Russia here. This is a 4.4 earthquake here in the Kuril Islands, 54 kilometers deep. I've given you a short tour of the world. I've given you a short tour of the world, showing you what they're not showing and other points in between. I haven't talked about Texas. Southwestern Texas here always had earthquakes. Always do. For the past 3 years, they've had earthquakes here in southern Texas. Why? Oil and gas fracking operations. Oil and gas fracking. Southern Texas, the same reason. This is Fullerton, Texas, a 1.6 tremor here because of oil and gas fracking operations. Oklahoma. Oklahoma's been having earthquakes here as a result of oil and gas fracking operations. One other point here, and then we're going to talk about the gist of our program here tonight. This earthquake is on the Pneumatid Fault. The Pneumatid Fault right there. The Pneumatid Fault right there. I'm going to zoom in here. I attempted to zoom in here without, hopefully without screwing up the map here. This is New Madrid, Missouri. New Madrid, Missouri. Last week we showed you plenty of tremors here in New Madrid, Missouri. Well, guess what? They're only showing us one tremor here in New Madrid, Missouri. There are dozens of tremors here in New Madrid, Missouri. They're showing us 1.8 tremor. It happens to be 8.5 kilometers deep. 8.5 kilometers deep, about 5 miles deep along the Pneumatid Fault right here. Okay? There's other activity here. There's activity along the east coast of North America. All along this area here, this entire area here, all the way up here into Canada. They're not showing us anything. Why? Again, they don't want us to see it. They do not want us to see it. Now I told you about earthquakes. Oklahoma shakes hard and long. Oklahoma has been having earthquakes for quite some time. Again, they don't want us to see what's going on. They never do. They don't want to admit what's going on. Fracking causes earthquakes. Fracking causes earthquakes. It always has, and it will always will. They don't want to admit what is happening. Heaven forbid. Heaven forbid they tell us what's going on. Now, I want to get into the gist of our program here tonight. It's not just about earthquakes. and I'm going to tell you why. We've had a lot of things going on, and they're going to continue happening. Some of this is in regards to politics, and I have gotten a lot of flack from it. I catch a lot of flack for talking about earthquakes. I catch a lot of flack about talking about politics. But we have to do this. We have to talk about what's going on, or the politicians and the government is going to do whatever they want to do. They're going to do whatever they want to do and get away with it. And folks, we're not letting that happen. We haven't let them happen before, and we're not going to start now. I have to restart my monitor. We started to have problems with the monitor. Or not with the monitor, the computer. I'll get back to the chat, see everybody talking in the chat in just a second. NCWQ is calling the USBS the United States Billing Service. Yeah, pretty much true. Pretty much true. Anyway, what's really going on here? I've got a presentation I want to talk about. And every minute of it is true. Every second of it's true. There's been a lot going on today. A ton of it. And we're going to talk about it right now. Today, the United States Supreme Court gave President Trump a huge win. The U.S. Supreme Court gave President Trump a huge win. Today, the Supreme Court raised the bar for prosecuting President Trump. They basically told Jack Smith, the special prosecutor, that Mr. Garland, the U.S. Attorney General, put in charge of prosecuting President Trump. Why'd that happen? Because Biden told Garland, the Attorney General, to go after Trump, to stop him from running for election, running for president again. But the charges that the United States government went after President Trump on are false charges. False charges. Today, the Supreme Court ruled that President Trump has immunity for some of his conduct as president in his federal election interference case. He has immunity for some of his conduct as president in his federal election interference case. But maybe not for other actions. Maybe not for other actions. Now, adding one other obstacle. The Supreme Court added another obstacle for special counsel Jack Smith taking the case to trial, effectively destroying Jack Smith's ability to prosecute the president, or what they call the former president. They charged him with 39 felonies. Well, guess what? They can't do that. They can't do that. President Trump has immunity for a lot of his conduct, almost all of it. Even Jack Smith has to go back to the court area, the court rulings, and decide what charges they're going to charge President Trump with. And they're effectively going to have to dismiss probably at least 90% of or 100% of all the charges that Jack Smith wanted to go after Trump for. And that idiot judge that went after President Trump before, guess what? Guess what? They've got to go back and realize what exactly happened. They falsely accused President Trump, number one. Number two, they gave false information to the jury. They gave false information to the jury. They didn't give the jury complete instructions either. And as a result, what is happening? They convicted the president. They can't do what they did. They think they can just get away with it. They can't. They have to go back through and decide what's going to happen. Now, July 11th, that judge was going to prosecute and sentence President Trump to possibly prison. Rikers Island. Guess what? They're now going to have to decide what charges they want to really charge President Trump with. False information. False information. Now, they may not even try to prosecute President Trump now, even until after the election is over. The Supreme Court ruled in Trump versus the United States 2024. The presidents have absolute criminal immunity for official acts under core constitutional powers, but not for personal actions. Not for personal actions. Now, this was a 6-3 decision, meaning 3 Democrat justices did not agree with the majority. 5 justices ruled that President Trump had immunity from his actions. Okay? The 6-3 decision deemed that the U.S. Supreme Court determined that presidents enjoy immunity for official acts in office, but that privilege does not extend to private conduct. It doesn't extend to private conduct. The case against Trump with Jack Smith has now been sent back to the trial court, with instructions for Judge Tanya Chutkan to determine which actions in the indictment constitute official conduct and which should be dropped from the case, which look to be like most of the Jack Smith case will have to be dropped. Chief Judge John Roberts authored the decision, which strikes a balance between arguments that presidents have absolute immunity and arguments that not prosecuting criminal actions would lead to misconduct from presidents. Can President Trump be prosecuted in the January 6th election case? Let me tell you, quote, "We conclude that under our constitutional structure of separation of powers, the nature of presidential power requires that a former president have some immunity from criminal prosecution for official acts during his tenure in office. Now, let's go on. Chief Judge Roberts wrote, "At least with respect to the president's exercise of his core constitutional powers, this immunity must be absolute. At least with respect to the president's exercise of his core constitutional powers, this immunity must be absolute. As for his remaining official actions, he is also entitled to immunity. At the current stage of proceedings in this case, however, we need not and do not decide whether that immunity must be absolute, or instead whether presumptive immunity is sufficient. In concurrence, Justice Clarence Thomas questioned whether the special counsel Jack Smith is authorized to prosecute the case. Why? Because special counsel Jack Smith is not a special counsel at all. He is not a special counsel at all. He was never appointed as a special counsel. Calling into question the validity of his role, calling into question the validity of Jack Smith's role, If there is no law establishing the office that the special counsel occupies, then he cannot proceed with his prosecution. That's what Judge Thomas wrote. A private citizen cannot criminally prosecute anyone. And that is exactly who Jack Smith is. A private citizen. Let alone prosecute a former president. Justice Amy Coney Barrett dissented in part, disagreeing with the term immunity. The president can challenge the constitutionality of a criminal statute as applied to official acts alleged in the indictment, and he can obtain interlocutory review of any trial court's ruling. Interlocutory review is when the president or any person that's being prosecuted can go back and review the court's rulings. And then the court has to put the case on hold. That is absolutely constitutional. The person being prosecuted has the opportunity to obtain interlocutory review, to challenge the court's decision, or anything else related to what the justice is doing. Okay? It's incredible. Let's go on. This has deep meaning. This has deep meaning. Judge Barrett said that the prosecution would only be able to go forward if it did not intrude on the authority and functioning of the executive branch. If it did not intrude on the authority and the functioning of the executive branch. And that's exactly what this is. That is exactly what this is. Why am I covering this? Because this affects each one of us. It affects us and our voting ability. It affects us and our voting ability for the office of the President of the United States. That's why we're talking about it, in case anyone wants to challenge me. This applies to each one of us as well. Okay? So the majority of the justices said that President Trump had immunity, or at least partial immunity. 90 to 95% immunity. And that's the exact thing I got from the prosecutors. That's the exact thing I got from the law clerks and other attorneys. Okay? Now, the Democrat side of the Supreme Court disagreed completely. They disagreed completely. Justices Sotomayor, Justice Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, they dissented. Why did the three judges dissent? Because they're Democrats. So politics is still part of the justice system. Politics are part of the justice system. Just like we have in New York with this case that came up against President Trump. The justice himself was a Democrat. He and his family donated money to Biden. And in fact, the justice and his family and others involved in the case actually met in Washington with the Biden administration to prosecute the case. The Democrat Communist Party is alive and well in Washington, D.C., including in the U.S. Supreme Court. In my opinion, and my opinion only, I want to make that clear, these justices should have gone along with the other justices, as this looks like partisan politics. They should have gone along with the majority in the decision that the president, no matter who the president is, would have immunity or at least partial immunity, 90 to 95% immunity from prosecution for any actions he takes officially during his service as president. Because the Democrat side of the Supreme Court ruled against it, partisan politics have reason here in the Supreme Court. If they would have gone along with the other justices, it would have looked like they were going along with it so the other political party would be covered under this decision, which it will. But partisan politics have to be played even at the highest court in the land, because the Biden administration has decided it. Okay? Justice Sotomayor wrote, and I'm including this to prove a point. Justice Sotomayor is a Democrat. Today's decision to grant former president's criminal immunity reshapes the institution of the presidency. It makes a mockery of the principle, the foundation to our Constitution and the system of government, that no man is above the law, relying on little more than its own misguided wisdom about the need for bold and unhesitating action by the president. Now, if this had been the other way around, and this had been Biden that the Supreme Court was ruling on, guess what? The Democrat justices would have voted for immunity. The Democrat justices would have voted for immunity, only because of partisan politics, in my opinion. In my opinion. The court today gave President Trump all the immunity he asked for and more. Fact. Because our Constitution does not shield a former president from answering criminal and treasonous acts, Justice Sotomayor wrote that she dissented. She dissented. So partisan politics are alive and well in Washington and all over the Supreme Court. Fact. Now I want to talk about another emergency that is happening in the Caribbean Sea and down over in the outlying islands. Okay? Hurricane Beryl is alive and well. It started off as a Cat 1 hurricane over on the eastern side of the outlying islands. The outlying islands on the east side of South America. It started off as a Cat 1, a Category 1, then a Category 2. Yesterday it was a Category 3 storm around the Antilles Islands. Then it hit land in the Antilles Islands. It got reduced a little bit. After it came out of the Antilles Islands, headed west, it became a Category 4 hurricane at 150 plus miles per hour, with sustained winds of 165 mile per hour gusts. It is a major hurricane right now, with wind gusts of over 180 miles per hour. This storm, as it went over the Antilles Islands, had a brief time where the storm went over the land area and the eye of the hurricane came under what they call eye replacement, meaning the hurricane started falling apart. Then the eye came back, and it's very well defined. The eye of the storm is very well defined now. Now I want to show you some pictures that I pulled for this discussion. The eye of the storm is very well defined. I want to show you some pictures here. Look at this. Look at the defined eye here. Now this is just after it came out of the Antilles Islands. Antilles Islands are down here, okay? This came out of the Antilles. The storm was regenerating. the storm was regenerating. The eye was under eye replacement. That's why this is not completely defined here. However, things changed within the first 12 hours after the storm came out of the Antilles. Okay? I want to show you this. Doggone it. These two pictures that I'm showing you are infrared looks from the satellite showing Hurricane Beryl. You can see here that the eye is very well defined here. These red clouds here are the upper part of the clouds. The red is showing here as defined by cold clouds. The top part of the clouds are cold. Now, what is all this on the outside of the storm? Folks, these are outer wind bands of the hurricane. These are throwing off tremendous thunderstorms and tornadoes. These wind bands are throwing off tremendous thunderstorms and tornadoes, the outer bands of the hurricane. This is the center part of the hurricane with the highest winds, right here. We have wind gusts now of 180 miles per hour. Okay? That's what's happening. Let me show you one more slide here. Okay? This was a live hurricane radar right before I came on the air. Look at this. Again, the eye of the hurricane is very well defined. The outer bands of the hurricane going out with the tremendous thunderstorms and tornadoes. Okay? Now, one more slide here. I want to show you one more slide here. This slide is very important. This slide is the tracking for the hurricane. Okay? 11 a.m. this morning, this is where the hurricane was. Okay? This will be 8 a.m. on Tuesday. This location right now is where the hurricane is. Okay? Right now, it is a Category 4 storm. It's moving out here in the warm waters of the Caribbean Ocean, the Caribbean Sea. The more and more time it spends out here in the Caribbean, it's going to gain strength. Hurricanes gain strength from the warmer waters of the ocean, or in this case, the Caribbean. Okay? We have plenty of time for this storm to get even stronger. We expect to see a Category 5 storm. Again, we expect to see a Category 5 storm. 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. We are going to be on the air by the time the hurricane's here. This is over on the southern side of the Dominican Republic. Late tomorrow night, the storm will be just south of Haiti. Just south of Haiti right here. It's going to hit Jamaica right here. Wednesday, 8 p.m., it will still be over Jamaica headed west. Right here, the storm will probably lose some strength here after it goes over Jamaica here. Okay? As it proceeds out here closer to land, it will have a time where it will gain more strength here. It may turn into a Category 5 storm here by tomorrow night, but by Wednesday, it will lose strength because it's gone over land here in Jamaica. Here it will have a time out here, again in the Caribbean here, to gain a little more strength before it hits land here on the outside of eastern Mexico here and the Yucatan Peninsula. Yucatan Peninsula, Honduras and Belize. Honduras and Belize. Now, folks, I, for one, have a great deal of sympathy for people that are going to be hit by this hurricane. NCWQ Rebecca says, Hurricane season starts in June. Well, guess what? It started before that. This storm was out in the Atlantic Ocean. Now, what happens here? Before any storms can even hit in June, there is a dust storm coming off of the Sahara in northern Africa. This area here of the Atlantic has a lot of sand and dust and dirt. The dirt and sand is proceeding out westbound over the Atlantic Ocean. We suspect that sometime within the next couple weeks, the sand and dust will be over Florida. And you're going to see pictures of the sand and dust here in Florida, especially in the evenings, early morning and evenings. The sand and dust will continue over here into the Gulf of Mexico. Now, why did I tell you that? I believe it has great significance with what's happening, okay? With what's happening. We have sand and dust over here in the Gulf of Mexico, probably by this next week. Now, this hurricane, Hurricane Beryl, will be hitting Belize and Honduras. Belize is where our friend Larry Smith lived. Larry Smith's family and his friends are now trying to fortify the land they have here in Belize. They're trying to fortify it, trying to make their property solid. So when this hurricane comes, it's not going to damage the homes and buildings that Larry helped build here. Okay? Larry was a very dear friend of mine. And Larry often talked to me about the love that he had for his family and love that he had for the people that he helped supervise and helped bring to his land to help farm and ranch it. Larry has quite a compound here in Belize. Unfortunately, last year Larry passed away, and I miss Larry terribly. He was a very good friend. Why am I spending so much time on Larry? Because, folks, Larry wrote the book on hurricane preparedness. Larry wrote a book on hurricane preparedness. He actually wrote the book. There's actually a book. Okay? Larry wrote the book on hurricane preparedness. Larry and I often work together. Larry and I often worked together when hurricanes came over here to the United States. Larry was a great man. Now, as this hurricane passes over the Yucatan, it's going to lose strength. Its loss in strength will make this hurricane a tropical storm by the time it gets out here into the Gulf of Mexico. But there are several things that might happen between the time it reaches the Gulf of Mexico and where it might go after that. There is some speculation that the hurricane would travel up here into northern Mexico and also over here into the peninsula of Texas, southern Texas, and even over here into Louisiana. Now there is a possibility, and it's happened before Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Katrina went like this and hit Louisiana and hit most of the southern states here. It came around the Gulf of Mexico. It hit Texas. It hit Louisiana terribly. The main landfall was here in Louisiana. Okay? It can happen. It could happen again. It could go over northern Mexico here. Personally, that is my preferred route, to go over northern Mexico, further reducing the strength of this tropical storm. Okay? Then it would just be a tropical depression with rain. Even a tropical depression, though, is going to have results. 8 to 15 inches of rain. 8 to 15 inches of rain along the coast, and rain proceeding over Mexico. If it goes even further north, Texas, southern Texas here is going to get nailed, and possibly even Louisiana if this storm would take a loop over here along the northern area of the Gulf of Mexico. Okay? I'm just telling you. This could have implications here in the United States. Now, there are other tropical depressions out there. Tropical depressions and tropical storms off into the Atlantic. They probably won't do anything, though, because of all the dust and dirt and sand in the air from the Sahara Desert from northern Africa. That's why we don't have any major storm development here in the Atlantic Ocean, just down here. Okay? But this is what we believe is going to happen. Rebecca says she doesn't trust this storm, neither do I. Richard Smith says storms are acting strange. Yes, they are. We've had superstorms. We've all seen them. I've talked about it here on the air. There's a reason I've covered it here on the air. I want to make it very clear. These storms are dangerous, and some of these storms have been man-made. Some of these storms have been man-made, and there's a reason. Because the elites want to have power. The elites of the world want to have power. And I've proven it. Roger Reynolds says it's happened before. You're correct, Ron. I hope I'm not. I'm actually hoping I am dead wrong. I am hoping I am dead wrong. But I don't think so. Now, I want to show you this because I'm very concerned. I'm concerned for a lot of reasons. There are a lot of lives in the balance here. There are lives in Mexico. There are lives in the Yucatan Peninsula. There are lives in Texas and Louisiana and even Arkansas and Mississippi. And if this storm turns like I think it will, a lot of people's lives will be in danger. I want to address this as well. I want to address this as well. Cat Nutmeg Dog is asking, how can a man cause a hurricane? If you didn't already know, there are man-made electronics that send signals into the upper atmosphere. And they've been targeting various places around the globe. These high-frequency radiation signals are sent up in the upper atmosphere, into the ionosphere and the stratosphere. And they send them out to specific locations. These electronic signals, these wavelengths, have caused these storms, not just hurricanes, but tornadoes, to be larger than they ever hoped to be. Man-made weather change. Why? Number one, they're trying to influence us. They're trying to reduce the population. I didn't want to get into this part of it tonight, but that's just part of it. That's just part of it. They want to create great damage and depopulation. Okay? I've talked about this before, and I'll talk about it again. Some of these people, these facilities that I'm talking about, have caused earthquakes. They've caused earthquakes. 4 years ago, December 26th and December 28th, Puerto Rico. This organization, and I'm going to show you what organization I'm talking about. Please do not put this in the chat. Do not put this in the chat. Okay? This organization right here. This organization right here has a facility in Norway. They have a facility in Russia. They have a facility in northwestern Australia. December 26th and December 28th, they lit off the facilities. They triangulated southwestern Puerto Rico. The first earthquake was a 8.0 earthquake. December 26, 2019 was an 8.0 earthquake. 3 days later, December 28th, again they triangulated southwestern Puerto Rico and caused an 8.4 earthquake. Both those earthquakes were major earthquakes, causing death, causing injuries, causing major destruction to Puerto Rico, knocking out their entire electrical system in Puerto Rico. High frequency modulation, manipulation. They've done this before and they're going to do it again. They've done it with storms, they've done it with earthquakes. I can prove it. I proved it with the earthquakes in Puerto Rico 4 years ago. I have proven it with storms as well. Okay? It is very effective. It is very effective. And that may be what's going on with this storm here. It gathered strength very quickly. It went from a Category 1 to a Category 2 to a Category 3 in about a day and a half. That is very strong weather energy within less than a 30-hour period. Okay? That's it. That's it. Now, I think I proved my point. Again, I believe they're going to do it until they get caught. Until they get prosecuted for what they're doing. The only way they're going to get prosecuted is if someone comes up with a strong belief that they can't do it anymore. And they must not do it anymore. Okay? I can prove it. It's been proven by other people as well. I'm not the only one. Now, even over in the Western Antilles, there are hurricane warnings up in the Western Antilles for the next 2 days. As we see that storm move west, we're going to see hurricane warnings go up in the central part of the Caribbean. Now, we still have about 50% more of the storm to go through before it leaves the Western Antilles. 50% more of the storm before it leaves the Western Antilles. Antilles have lost power. In case you've been wondering why we do not have video or pictures out of the Antilles, it's because they have lost power. There's no video or cameras that are active over in the Antilles at all. Okay? I show you the hurricane track. As we go forward during the next few days, I will update that on our next program. And on Wednesday, into Thursday, and into Friday, when the hurricane hits the Yucatan Peninsula, over where Larry's family and friends live. I will update this as we go forward. I want everybody to know. Now, as this approaches Jamaica, it will be partially overland in Jamaica. It will weaken somewhat. But the storm surge from the wind and waves coming into the landmass. Each and every landmass will be affected. Even as it goes south of the Dominican Republic and Haiti, it's going to have a storm surge hitting the southern part of the Dominican Republic and Haiti. There could be property damage in the Dominican Republic and Haiti. There will be property damage in Jamaica. Southern Jamaica will get a direct hit. Okay? As this storm continues to move westward, It will be making landfall in the Yucatan Peninsula by 6 or 7 a.m. on Friday morning. And I will be on the air Friday morning. Beryl will hit the Honduras and Belize at least as a Category 5 storm. It will hit Honduras and Belize as a Category 5 storm. Again, that's where my friend Larry lived. His family and friends are still there. They are busy boarding up the compound there, getting ready for the storm to hit. Okay? Now, after it moves over land in the Yucatan, it's going to lose strength and become a tropical storm, like I said, as it moves into the Gulf of Mexico. There'll be a strong tropical storm. As I said before, it may move over to Mexico. That's what I'm hoping. That's the best hope we have. Moving over into mainland Mexico. It'll drop a lot of rain, yes, but less lives will be in danger by going over into the western side, or the eastern side of Mexico. Okay? Now, as it moves out of the Yucatan Peninsula, it's going to move into the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, where it could pick up strength before it goes into either Mexico or Texas. Okay? This storm could again brew up very fast, especially if there's any weather manipulation involved, like I spoke about. It could brew up fast into a hurricane strength storm again, a Category 1 to possible Category 3, as I believe it will. And I am in consultation with weather forecasters as we go forward. I'm in constant communication with weather forecasters. Now, while this storm is still 4 days out from hitting Yucatan, we don't know for sure what's going to happen between now and then, but it could happen, just like I have said it could. This storm could change and get bigger, and like I said, turn and make a turn into Texas and Louisiana. We learned a lot from Hurricane Katrina. What I'm talking about happened with Hurricane Katrina. It made the same turn and went smack dab into landfall in New Orleans. I was there within 24 hours of that storm hitting New Orleans. I was there. I know what can happen from a Category 4, Category 5 storm. This means those of you in southern Texas and Louisiana, you need to get prepared and prepare immediately. Yes, we're still 5 to 7 days before it hits in southern Texas and or Louisiana. But that week is not a very long time. It's a very short time. You need to get prepared immediately, if not sooner, because this storm is not going to stop. This storm will not stop. Everybody needs to get prepared now. This storm is not going to wait for you or anyone else to put together your emergency preparedness kits and get water and to fill your car's gas tank and keep it filled between now and then. You need to do this now, immediately, if not sooner. Michelle W. is here in the chat saying she lives in Houston, and I'm moving Saturday. Now I'm scared. Michelle, you may have some time here. I know where Houston is. You may have some time to move. I hope and pray you do, unless this storm gathers strength and moves quicker than I'm thinking it's going to. But you all need to be prepared. Now, I have been talking about preparation for 5.5 years, and I will bet you this. There are not 25% of the people that watch this program or listen to this program that even have an emergency preparedness kit. If you don't know what an emergency preparedness kit is, go back through our previous programs, and where you see an emergency preparedness kit talked about in the title of the program, you need to see that program. You need to watch it and take notes and take immediate action to protect yourselves and get ready for this storm. It's going to be a big storm. You need to get prepared, and you need to get prepared now. I don't think even 25% of the people that watch this program or listen to it have a preparedness kit or have enough water when the storm hits. It's not going to be in case it's going to hit. And I can guarantee you it will. We have only 76 people watching this program right now. I'm surprised. I thought we'd have over 100 to 150 people watching by now. Because what we've talked about is vitally important. We have 80 people who've given us thumbs up. If you enjoy what we talked about, let YouTube know by giving us a thumbs up. This is important information. I don't think even 25% of the people have an emergency preparedness kit. Why? Because back in 2014, a survey was done by FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. They did a survey of all emergency managers throughout the United States, even me. The only question in the survey was this: how many of you have a 72-hour kit? How many of you have a 72-hour kit? Which is a preparedness kit for 72 hours. 3 days worth of food. A cook kit. A way to start a fire and cook your food and to stay warm. A change of clothes, at least. Or a change of clothes for at least two of you. Or two changes of clothes for one person for 72 hours. Every person needs to have an emergency preparedness kit. And heavy-duty shoes. Heavy-duty shoes is also part of your emergency preparedness kit. And to have a way to sleep, a pillow, a sleeping bag. How many of you have that? How many of you have water as well to last at least 72 hours? I do. My wife and I have anywhere from 4 to 6 months worth of water right now. Right now. We have made sure our dogs have their water. My wife and I have separate water for our dogs. So we make sure they have water and food as well. The dogs have at least 6 months worth of food. We have 6 months worth of food. And we're trying to make that even longer. And I encourage the same thing of all of you. Now, we've been talking about this for 5.5 years. I'm not going to stop. Why have you not done your preparedness activities before now? That's my next question. Why have you not done your preparedness activities before now? Why haven't you done it? We've been talking about it for five years. Why have you not done it? Rebecca says she's behind. She says she's working on it. I've talked to Rebecca myself. Many of the others of you have also told me the same thing. Don is in the chat. Don is one of my best friends over in Utah. He's one of my best friends and he's a moderator on this channel. Be proactive. Plan, prepare, and practice to prevail. Be proactive. Plan, prepare, and practice to prevail. Practice to win. Exercise your plan. Write a plan and exercise your plan. A while back I showed you my preparedness plan for my wife and family and I. It's up here on my shelf, in my bookcase. I take it down at least 2 or 3 times a week to either revise it, look at it, and make sure it's current. Folks, you need to do this. You need to do this. For your own survival, you need to do this. Richard Smith is here in the chat, says, my bags are working bags. he says it'll change accordingly. Absolutely, they should change accordingly. Your emergency preparedness kits should change according to the weather and your circumstances. The same thing with your plan. You can always take your plan out and revise it. Cross out the things that you don't want to do, you don't need, and revise it and put the things in that you do need. Emergency preparedness plans are a guideline. And you need that guideline to protect yourself in emergencies, because if you wait for an emergency to happen, guess what? You're going to forget what you need to do, and you're not going to have the things you need. And as a result, something might happen to you or your family members. That is why I have stressed this over and over and over again. Now, I asked myself this earlier this afternoon. Why do I have to keep repeating myself again and again and again? Because people are not listening. People are not heeding my advice. I have to talk about it because people are not listening. You're not getting the emergence of what's going on. These hurricanes are going to strike. We're going to have some very strong hurricanes, Category 4 hurricanes hitting the United States this summer through November. Yes, hurricane season goes from June to November. We're going to have at least 12 to 14 named major storms. Am I making any inroads here? Now the number of people have dropped down from 79 to 72. That means people don't want to listen. They don't want to be informed. Now it's down to 68. They don't want to get told what to do. I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm asking you to protect yourselves and your families. Now, some people may get offended because I'm very serious with what I'm talking about. That's because I've done disaster drills. I've been on the scene of disaster incidents, hurricanes and other natural disasters, and man-made disasters. I've been there, done that. Some of you may get offended by it, but I am very serious right now. I am trying to help people survive. I'm trying to help save people's lives. But I will bet that not even 25% of the people who watch or listen to this program even have a preparedness kit, let alone a preparedness plan. How many of you have a written preparedness plan? Maybe 10%? Everyone needs to have a preparedness plan. It doesn't mean just a hurricane, earthquake, fires, tornadoes, shootings, or other natural or man-made disasters. Electrical plants blowing up, power plants blowing up, oil and gas facilities, refineries blowing up. Yes, I've covered those things as well. I covered trains derail, including in Ohio. Remember what happened? Huge train derailment. And allegedly, one tank car that had a dangerous chemical in it leaked. And men went and dug a huge trench for that chemical to leak into. What's wrong with that issue? Why should they not have done that? Because they contaminated the earth with that chemical. Then some stupid people, and I'm going to call a spade, these people were stupid people. They then lit the chemical on fire and they spread the toxic chemical into the air. They spread the toxic chemical into the air and the water, because the ash and smoke got into the water as well. And the toxic chemical went into the groundwater, leached into streams and rivers, spreading the toxic chemical all the way into Pennsylvania. Stupid. Stupid. Now we have toxic chemical in Ohio, Kentucky, and Pennsylvania, and other states. Even that toxic smoke went out over the Atlantic Ocean, contaminating fish and wildlife. Yes, folks, these people that did that should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law and sit in prison and rot in prison for what they've done. I covered it. I've seen it. Now, maybe, just maybe, I'm crazy. I don't think so. But if you remember the story in the Old Testament, when these maidens with lamps, some of them had oil in their lamps, others didn't have any. The ladies that didn't have any oil in their lamps begged for the ladies who had oil in their lamps and were ready. They were begging for oil from those ladies that were ready, that were prepared. When they knocked on the door, the Savior opened the door and invited those that had oil in their lamps. Then, right before the door closed, the Savior said, I don't know you. I don't know you. Guys, I'm dead serious about this. Maybe, just maybe, I ought to shut this program down and say, I don't know you. I don't want to have to do that. I started this program 5.5 years ago. Over the last 5.5 years, I've had quite a few people in the past that have donated and supported this program. Now the donations have almost stopped. Yes, occasionally people like Heidi Petrick donate on our super chat, and others of you have as well. But for all intents and purposes, the donations have all but stopped. Donations to our PayPal. If you don't know where our PayPal is, about 10 minutes after we get off this program, we'll have a program description. Right before, right after, in the top of the program description, it has a website you can go to with YouTube to join as a member of our emergency management team. You can be a member of our emergency management team. The lowest level is $1.99 a month. The second is $2.99 a month. The third level is $3.99 a month. I kept those totals down because I know not a lot of people have much money. Been there, done that. But how many people have actually joined as members of the EMA? Not a lot. It's not just that. And it's not just the super chats. The number of people that support us on PayPal has almost dropped to almost nothing. 1 or 2 people keep supporting this channel on PayPal. And I love and appreciate them very much. Roger Reynolds says more people are broke now than ever. I agree. I am broke. I'm broke. But again, if you're not prepared, you may not have food or water necessary for yourself or your family. You may not have filled up your cars with gas, and as a result, you may have to shelter in place where you're at. And you may face the brunt of the hurricane head on. Sancha said in the chat a few minutes ago, she evacuated before Hurricane Katrina. A lot of people did. Unfortunately, I found a lot of people that didn't. Some of those people died. I was there. As law enforcement, I was a cop. As law enforcement went through New Orleans, we saw water levels that had reached the roof of homes and businesses. We made entry into those homes. Some of the homes had been evacuated. Other people had died inside their homes. And we put an X on that home as a reminder that we checked those homes. On one side of the X, on the right-hand side, we put a number. If it was 0, nobody was found. If there were people found dead, we put the number of dead on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side of that X, if we found people alive in the attic or the roof of the home, we put that number on the left. But either way, we had an X on each home. That way we knew what homes had been checked for people. And yes, we rescued people. We rescued people. Roger Reynolds said, what a horrific sight. I agree. I saw people dead on their lawns. I saw people dead in the street. I saw coffins floating on Lake Pontchartrain. I saw a coffin on the side of the road. The coffin had come out of a cemetery and had been floating in the floodwaters in New Orleans. At the time, we took turns in the dispatch center, which was a portable mobile dispatch center, a converted motorhome. I was working in the dispatch center this one day, and one officer was trying to find another officer. This is no joke. One officer was telling the other officer how to find him. He said, go down the street. When you see a coffin, make a right-hand turn. The coffin was sitting near the corner of the street. All the street signs had been blown down by the winds of Hurricane Katrina. There were no street signs or stop signs anywhere in New Orleans. Then he told the officer to turn at the coffin and go further down the street where we see a big tree and see the other officer's patrol vehicle. Can you imagine the horror of those of us in the dispatch center that had to hear this? Or even the horror that was in the voices of those police officers working the street. Unreal. You don't really understand what happens until you're there. Don Patoga's here in the chat, and he put something up I want to repeat. If you're scared, maybe you should be. If you do not have your crap scored away, you should be terrified. If you're truly prepared, you will be saying, thank you, Jesus, for the knowledge and the ability. Situations can be very dangerous, very daunting and demanding, as I have explained them to you tonight. Ignoring what I've told you to do, ignoring what I have suggested, being proactive, practiced, proper preparation as possible. You're going to save your lives and the lives of your family. But you need to practice. You need to get this down. You need to have your preparedness plans. You need to have a plan and keep it active. You need to have an emergency preparedness kit, and I mean right now. Right now. Prevention is part of the cure. Prevention, protection, response, recovery, and mitigation. If you have the things that I'm suggesting, guess what? You're going to be able to come out of the other side of the emergency, no matter what it is. You're going to be able to come out the other side somewhat unscathed. Folks, I'm serious. I've been there, done that. I've seen the aftermath of what's going on. Linda Covington says that the coffins were buried above ground, and they were. Other coffins raised up by the water that got into the ground. We saw that happen as well. Diane Kelman is here saying it is the water table that is problem, part of it. You need to remember that New Orleans is below sea level. That's the other issue. Lisa Marie just gave us became a member of the EMA chat, EMA 1. Lisa Marie, thank you so much. I appreciate that so much. Folks, you need to prepare. And I don't care where you live. You need to do what we've asked you to do. I care about you, or I would not even talk about it. I would not say one word, and come heck or high water, you might get hurt. I am trying to help you save your life and the life of your family, and maybe the lives of others. Okay? Otherwise, you're going to get hurt, or worse. Is this what needs to happen for more and more people to get hurt and killed? Each of us has the opportunity to prepare. Lisa Marie says, if it didn't matter, you wouldn't care so much. Thank you. You're right. Even my wife said that, Lisa Marie. Earlier today, my wife said the exact same thing. If I didn't care so much, I wouldn't even do this. I have been a cop. Once a cop, always a cop. I retired in 2009. I still care. I'm still a certified first responder. Each one of us has the opportunity to prepare. Each one of us has an opportunity to serve our fellow man, to serve our family, to serve our neighbors. Each of us has the opportunity. Have you prepared yet? Have you prepared yet? I know I've been awful hard tonight, but again, I'm trying to save lives here. Have you prepared yet? If not, why not? When will people listen to what I am saying? If you don't do it now, when will you do it? Now, I'm sorry to be so hard-headed. I'm sorry that I have been so hard-hearted here, but I'm trying to help you. I am trying to help you. I'm also sorry to complain. I need your help to stay on the air. I've mentioned this before. I have gotten definitive details of my situation the past few days. My internet bill has gone up from $175 per month to over $242 a month. $242 a month. Where am I going to come up with that money? My rent has also increased $100 a month. With that, my Social Security money that I have earned, the Social Security money that I have gotten previously has been cut by $200 a month. No letter, no notice, no nothing. So my income has been cut by $200 a month. My internet bill is now $240 a month. My rent has gone up another $100 a month. I don't even have enough money to stay on the air to do my job, to help all of you, and to pay the bills. Fact. Something has to give. Songstress Griffin has given us a $5 super chat. Thank you very much. I appreciate that so much. I really do. God bless you for that. If any of you can help contribute to what we're doing here, I promise if there is any excess money, I will donate those money to disaster organizations. I've done this before, and I will do that again. And I will provide aid to the victims. I will purposely provide aid to the victims. I don't want anyone to be giving money to Joe Blow the ragman who says he will provide aid to someone who needs help, and yet does not help anyone. If I get any excess money, I will promise to donate it to disaster relief. I have friends in disaster relief. I will make sure that excess money goes there. I will tell you what I've done and how I've done it. Rebecca says she'll send us a donation tomorrow. Derek Landon just gave us another $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Derek. I appreciate it. God bless you. I just gave you an EMA sticker on your super chat. I really appreciate that so much. That means the world to me and my family. I need your help, guys. I want to stay on the air. I've done this for all of you. I've done this for everybody around the world. Virginia says, I sent you a $100 bill and a card in March. Did you receive it? Yes, I did, Virginia. I appreciate that. God bless you for that. You may not have heard me talk about it on the air, but I did. I appreciate all of you. Like I said, I will continue doing my best that I possibly can. But I honestly need your help. Heidi Petrick. Heidi Petrick just gave us another $100. God bless you, Heidi. Thank you so much. Let the glory go to the Lord. Thank you for your work, Ron. God bless you, Heidi. God bless you. I didn't think I'd break down. That means so much. Rebecca just gave us another $5 super chat. Thank you, Rebecca. Appreciate you. Love you so much. I love each and every one of you. Thank you for myself. Thank you for my wife and our pups. We appreciate each one of you and helping us here on the program. I appreciate the opportunity you all give me to help you all with your families, your children, and those that you love. I appreciate each and every one of you. Surgery says, awesome, you can feel that love. I agree. Rebecca says, I'm glad to help you and help others. That means the world to me and my wife. I promise you, if there's any excess money, it will go to disaster preparedness to help those that hurt and they're hurting. I love you all. I love you all with all my heart. Brothers and sisters, I care. Diane Kelman just gave us another $5 super chat. God bless you for that. You all are not just my friends, you're my brothers and sisters, and I care. I care about you and your families. This makes the world of difference. It really does. Now, brothers and sisters, I have another story to tell. But this time I'm going to let someone else tell the story. Give me a second while I key it up. This is a friend of mine. His name is Dieter F. Uchtdorf.
And Jewish legend tells of two brothers, Abraham and Zimri, who owned a field and worked it together. They agreed to divide both the labor and the harvest equally. One night, as the harvest came to a close, Zimri could not sleep, for it didn't seem right that Abraham, who had a wife and 7 sons to feed, should receive only half of the harvest, while he, with only himself to support, had so much. So Zimri dressed and quietly went into the field, where he took a third of his harvest and put it in his brother's pile. He then turned to his bed, satisfied that he had done the right thing. Meanwhile, Abraham could not sleep either. He thought of his poor brother Zimri, who was all alone and had no sons to help him with his work. It did not seem right that Zimri, who worked so hard by himself, should get only half of the harvest. Surely this was not pleasing to God, and so Abraham quietly went to the fields, where he took a third of his harvest and placed it in the pile of his beloved brother. The next morning, the brothers went to the field and were both astonished that the piles did look to be the same size. That night, both brothers slipped out of their houses to repeat their efforts of the previous night. But this time, they discovered each other. And when they did, they wept and embraced. Neither could speak, for their hearts were overcome with love and gratitude. This is the spirit of compassion, that we love others as ourselves, seek their happiness, and do unto them as we hope they would do unto us. True love requires action. We can speak of love all day long. We can write notes and poems that proclaim it, sing songs that praise it, and preach sermons that encourage it. But until we manifest that love in action, our words are nothing but a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. And Jewish legend tells of two brothers, Abraham.
Okay. I hope you got something out of that. I saw this early this morning. It touched my heart, and I wanted to share it with you. We should be interested in each other. We should be interested in each other's families, our dearest friends and relatives, our neighbors. We should have our actions reflect our love. Diane Tillman in the chat just said that. Phoenix Wren just gave us a membership, EMA 1. Thank you for your membership. I appreciate that. Our actions reflect love, brothers and sisters. Rebecca is in the chat and said the greatest commandment is love. Exactly. Ask and you shall receive. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. May God bless you. May God be with you this day and always. I say that every day, but I mean it. I truly mean it with all my heart. God bless you. God be with you until we meet again. We'll see you on the other side. Have a great night, everyone. Much love. Thank you for your donations.